Howdy. So, today I'm starting a bit late. There's a small internet issue. So, that being said, today's probably going to be a shorter stream. Just because, as I mentioned, internet issues starting late, and I have work in like 45 minutes I need to get to. But that being said, there's still time to storyboard. So I think for today, I will probably be doing a instead of 2 prompts, it's just gonna be 1 prompt. So I think that's all I have time for. So I'm going to get my random dice generator. And I will check it out. Let's see. Yeah, normally I do an intro bit that explains this process, but I do not have the capabilities for that today. All right, section 5.1. Let's see, what is it? Long lens space. Hold on. I'm just gonna try one other roll. Okay, this one's more interesting. All right, section 9.3. I voted on section 9.3 because the other section was one that I've already done on stream before, so I figured that wouldn't be very interesting. All right, well, this one is not very difficult to understand. It is just a mechanism for how, or a tool, a visual tool on how you have the characters set up. So head-to-head, famously, is used in like, or sort of used in like Lion King, where, you know, you have a character here looking up at the stars, and then, you know, you have Timon, you know, looking up at the stars, and then you have Pumbaa or something like that, looking up at the stars. And their heads are all basically nearly touching. Or alternatively, what you could do is you could have 2 people, you know, lying down in a field or something, and their heads are basically touching. Lying down is what makes the most sense. I mean, technically you could do this in 0 gravity or something silly like that. But I don't know if that works. It makes sense. You know what? I have a feeling that's exactly what I'm going to do for my sequence. Yeah, but this is not a very difficult concept, I don't think, to understand. Usually when doing these kinds of scenes, I have a bit more of an explanation. As I said, because I'm short on time, and I don't think this is a tricky concept, I'm probably going to hop into the scene pretty quickly. Yeah, by the way, head-to-head, it's good for making characters feel like they're on the same page, but then not quite on the same page, because what you can do is, like, they can be, maybe it seems like they're connecting, and they, like, look at each other. Ooh. Here's a lady or something. Here's a guy. But alternatively, maybe you can show a disconnect, where one of the characters says something that makes the other character upset. And then what they can do is they can kind of, you know, look away, you know, sheepishly. And the other person isn't aware that what they're saying is something that upsets the other person. She's like, yeah, I think the Empire is pretty chill. Maybe you should like join it. She says something like that. So there's some fun things you can do with this. Hmm. Hmm. Trying to think, what should this scene be? Okay, this is going to be really difficult. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do this, but in zero gravity, of course. And I think what's going to make this scene very difficult is that the camera's going to keep on turning the whole time. All right, well, give me just a second. I'm going to drink some coffee. Mm. Hmm. Coffee. Okay, sorry. All right. What could these two characters be looking at? Let's say there's a ship or something that just blew up. Like a spaceship. Okay, sorry, I'm getting a little detailed with this, but... Or maybe it's the old remains of a ship. Because, in space, spaceships wouldn't really disappear. Even after, hundreds, thousands of years. So maybe this is the wreckage of, an old spaceship. It's been drifting out in space. Okay. And we'll have some, this shot. Okay, so as I've mentioned in multiple streams beforehand, I do not consider establishing shots as counting as part of my time, or for my timer, for my intervals, because they're important and they are always going to take longer to draw, and assuming that they're going to be drawn in 15 or 10 seconds is ridiculous. So I always make sure that they are the most clean drawings for the most part in any given scene. This is some space debris. I'm going to add some more space debris. It's like in the foreground. Alright, so we're going to have some sort of background. Maybe with sorry, I'm trying to get a little fancy with this. And maybe I'll throw in some stars or something, since we're in space. Maybe there's a planet or something nearby. Maybe that's the sun. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have this space debris. That is in the foreground. It's going to be turning and moving. And then we're going to have this space debris also be turning maybe faster. Then the ship back here is also going to be turning and maybe not moving. I kind of want to keep it centered. So we get this kind of thing. Oh yeah, I guess the background also needs to be turning. The stars. The only problem is that the star's pivot point isn't centered. Now it's centered. They're turning too much. Sorry, we're getting a little into the weeds in terms of the mechanics of all this. Cool. Yeah, that's a pretty shot. Okay, I like it. All right, now let's hop into the scene. I'm going to make sure that there is that the background to all these shots is pretty consistent. First things first. Okay. All right, so we're going to have two characters in space. So this is actually gonna be tricky. I know I say that sometimes, but okay, so all right, I'm gonna have to explain to you guys beforehand what I'm gonna do because it's not gonna make sense while I'm drawing it. The idea that I have is that essentially the camera is going to be slowly pushing in to these two characters as they're talking. And it is also going to be spinning the whole time. You know, so it is rotating with this rotation, but it's also getting closer and closer to them. To do this, I am probably just going to board the characters without the movement, and I'm going to add the camera rotation later, just because it will be a lot of tracking to keep it consistent as to frick, but can I do it? We'll get there when we get there. Okay. I also just need to figure out what the lore is of this and who these two characters are. Okay, here's this one kid. He's got like a spacesuit on. They both have to have spacesuits on or something. Alright, I'm getting pretty close to being able to turn on my timer. Bring on a piece of metal. Okay, sorry. I might have psyched myself out on this. I haven't done a shot like this before, so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it. Okay. Maybe these are two kids, and this is like his, let's see. Okay. Cool. And then I'll have some foreground debris just to track it with the other shots. Okay. I think this works. This is a lot of prep work for a scene. Sorry, I keep on talking, but like normally I don't do this much prep work. This is a scene that I think kind of needs it though. I'm trying to plan out the whole camera move before it actually happens. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to copy all these elements across all these scenes, and then should be actually good to go. Oh, howdy. Oh, thanks for showing up. Yeah, you're actually in luck. It's taken me way too long to start this sequence. Much longer than I expected it to. Yeah, so I'll give you a little breakdown. I gotta be brief because I do have work in a little bit. But essentially what I do here is I do straight ahead storyboarding, where I write a scene on the fly and just kind of make it up. And I'm using randomly generated, not randomly generated, I'm using sections from a book of shot techniques for dialogue scenes, and then figuring out how I'm going to do that dialogue scene in real time. So, like, for instance, yesterday's was I had to do section 1.9, which was deep staging of characters and acting. And then I also had to do section 6.6, which was a background switch. And so what I did is I had this scene where there's like this kid who's like trying to open one of these Roman dodecahedron things. He can't pry it open. And this is in like a sci-fi universe. And so then it cuts to this wide shot where there's all these characters working on this like destroyed vehicle. And different shenanigans are happening in the background as characters talk and do things. And eventually one of the characters over here on screen right brings out a whole bunch of wires, and then they cross over and they start talking. And they open the garage door so that light shines on this character who's having a dilemma on how to open this device. And he decides to go outside to get a breather. And he looks around. And they live in a desert wasteland, so like it's not really more comforting to be outside. And he looks down at the device and then ploops, because he can't figure it out. So that's an example of the scene was just written on the fly. Like as I was drawing it, I was trying to figure out like, okay, this has to happen next. This has to happen next. And so that is today. I'm doing a shorter sequence because I don't have a lot of time. So today's prompt is head to head, which is when characters' heads are basically physically touching, usually from a higher angle. And the reason why you do this in a scene is so that like you can tell when the characters are close to each other, but then you can also kind of tell when the characters are making different expressions where maybe someone said something that the other one doesn't like. And so it adds this tension where characters can be really, really close, but then they can also be seemingly far away at the same time. So we're doing this in a sci-fi universe because in zero gravity, it is very easy to have characters' heads touching. And so here's like a destroyed spaceship or something like that. Maybe it's hundreds of years old or like 1,000 years old. There's like these two kids that are like exploring the wreckage. And so their heads are touching right now and they're floating on a piece of debris. And so what I'm going to do for this scene is I'm going to add the camera move later. So I'm going to make it so that they're rotating the whole time throughout this scene. And so then that's going to just be interesting. Okay, so I'm going to begin in just a second. Again, I don't know what the dialogue is for any of this sequence. So like, I'm just going to make like rough estimates, like what these characters might be talking about. But, alright, I'm going to start my timer. So I'm going to assume one of these characters was already talking beforehand. Alright, so I'm also going to use a smaller brush. This character's like looking over. And, oh, sorry, I'm figuring out my process for this scene. He's gonna I don't know what they're talking about. And he's like, yeah, no, this wreckage is pretty cool. It's like I've never seen it before or something like that. All right. So I'm just drawing out the facial expressions. Like, yeah, wow. It's like so cool. And then this character's like, I don't know. I don't know, she turns her head or something. She's like, ooh. She's like, what's, you know, that thing over there? And then he's like, I don't know, he like looks over and he's like, you see that this is gonna be interesting because I have to keep track of both their expressions. And they're acting, so he points, he's like, huh? It's like that thing? Sorry, my computer's saving, so it's like, oh, that's that's whatever the heck thingy. It's a piece of I don't know, an engine or something. And this character is like, she's like, huh? No. She's like, I didn't. She's like, yeah, I know what an engine looks like. Oops. She's like, I mean, that thing. It's like, you're looking at the wrong thing. Oops, I forgot to draw his legs. His legs are crossed. That thing. And then he's gonna be. He's like, oh, that thing? Like, oh, that thing? He pauses for a second because he doesn't actually know. He's like, I haven't the slightest idea. But he's okay with that. So she's like, kind of like, maybe I'll ask her. She'll ask her parents or something when she gets back home to their spaceship or whatever the heck this story is. I have no idea what this narrative is. I'm just making up this dialogue on the fly to figure out what these characters could be talking about, what they could be thinking about. And then probably gonna ask something like, maybe they don't ask anything. Or maybe they're thinking about asking something, but they're contemplating it too much. Maybe he's gonna say something like, you've been quiet for 2 seconds too long. And then she's like something like, she's like, you know, I've been thinking. Maybe somehow this destroyed wreckage of the spaceship that they're visiting is somehow relevant to their spaceship, Or maybe their spaceship is going to suffer the same fate or something like that. And so maybe she's going to start asking questions about that. She's like, you know, she's like, what's to say that our spaceship isn't going to go through the same thing? Something like that. Or she might be, well, it's cool that they're visiting this archaic destroyed spaceship that might be floating around here for thousands of years or something like that. Maybe this is starting an existential crisis for her. Or something like that. And since they're in space, her legs can float around, which will be better for fun acting. Maybe she's gonna make like an explosion effect with her hands. She like claps her hands together. And then bursts her hands out for like dramatic effect. And it's like kablooey. Everything's gone. Yeah, she's having her, I don't know. I really hope she's not getting too much bigger in size. Sometimes it's hard to track character proportions when they're getting smaller or bigger. So she should like maybe curl up into a ball a little bit. She's kind of floating. Because, you know, she's kind of curling up because she's getting a little nervous. And she's maybe, I don't know, 6 years old or something like that. And he ponders this. He's like, But you know, he's significantly older. He's at least 7, maybe even 8. And he's probably just going to repeat some sort of advice that he heard an adult say that sounds really smart. But the audience will actually know that what he's saying doesn't really mean much. So it'll be kind of like a joke. See, I'm imagining a whole movie that connects to this one scene. So whatever he's saying here just needs to feel wise. Where he's like, well, you know, the blah, 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 whatever the heck it is, can't do that. And so, you know, that means, yeah, maybe he gives a really bad explanation of the mechanics of the failure of the spaceship. I think he's just repeating what some other kid told him. Yeah, like a 12-year-old told him. Something like that. It's like a 12-year-old told him how the mechanics work. And so he's parroting something that someone else told him. But the thing he's parroting is something that the audience knows is actually incorrect information. So he's like motioning with his hands. And, you know, he's maybe pointing and doing some like whirligig motions to explain how the machine works. It's like, well, the whatever the heck mechanism doesn't do the blah 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 unless the, and her head's gonna tilt a little bit because she's trying to listen. And he's like, doo -doo -doo. Yeah, I don't know what kind of motions he's doing. Just gonna bring his leg up. Just to bring his leg out. And then he's gonna whatever he's saying sounds really scientific or smart. And so that's why we don't need to worry about any of this. He can put his like hands behind his head or something like that. So I'm a little bit worried that his size has been changing throughout the scene. Oh, he's actually gotten smaller, not bigger. Normally the issue is that characters start to get bigger the longer you draw them. In this instance, my characters are getting smaller. So she says something like, wow, that's really smart. She's like, wow, I never thought of it that way. Wow, never thought of that. And she's gonna be like, you know, she's like, thanks for explaining that to me. How big was she at the beginning of this? Okay. So now she's back into a relaxed position. But someone needs to break the moment of peace. So give me a second. I'm gonna pause the timer for just a second. And I'm going to see how this camera move is doing so far. I'm going to have this. just want to make sure that there's a camera move that's actually happening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we are mostly already zoomed in at this point. Oops, the background needs to be bigger. Okay. So this background needs to be a lot bigger. The reason why I'm doing this is because there's a lot of full body acting that I'm doing. But if you can't see the character's full body because the camera's moving in, then I'm just wasting time. And so that's why I am going through here and trying to get a... Okay, so I guess the camera decided to do the exact opposite of what I wanted it to do. That's encouraging. Give me a second. Pause. Okay. Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We're 51 drawings in. That's really good. So let's see. So we have this. Then this shot. Okay, at this point, I think I want the camera to be closer and have turned all the way around. This might be too much. Oh no, I hope Storyboard Pro isn't about to crash. I can tell it's freaking out over this camera move for some reason. So I'm just going through this. I actually want this to spin in the other direction. Oh, I guess this works. I'm going to make sure that this is a bit more centered. And I want it to be pushed in a little bit more. And then from here on out, I vaguely know where I want this camera move to go. I want it to go in a little bit, but not a ton of it. Oops, wrong direction. Okay, whatever. I'll get to it when I get to it. Oops, wrong layer. Alright, I'm going to continue my timer again. Sorry, I just need to get that done before I did too much more drawing. Alright, trying to figure out what the narrative is. Maybe she's already thinking about something else. She's already having another existential crisis or something like that. She's like, but wait a minute. Like, wouldn't that cause blah, 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 blah? Some other issue. She can't be at peace for more than a few minutes. Maybe he realizes that she's right on some sort of point she's making. Yeah, so maybe she just made some sort of like big counterpoint to whatever smart thing he just said. And he's kind of like, he like thinks on it. It's like, I think it's gonna be alright. And then he, I know he sees something out of the corner of his eye that like grabs his attention. He's like, oh, what's that? So he gets up. And, yep. He swooshes out as he sees something. And she feels like he just dodged the question. She's like, hey. And, she's like, that didn't answer my question. And then it goes on after him. In this direction. And that would be the end of our shot, and then the plot would move on somewhere else, to another location. I actually still have time left. Dang. Okay, so that actually went out pretty well. And then, okay, so we just need to have the camera get all the way to what, here? I think. Let's see. So here, the camera will go that way. Yep. And we'll go back here to her. All right, so no idea why I did that. Okay. And the camera's gonna track her. Okay, so here's the sequence. Oh, howdy. Thank you for pointing that out. I don't know why that's an issue with my mic, because I have my gain up, like, not quiet. It might also be because I'm starting to mumble. So, yeah, hold on. I just turned up my mic. Yeah, I don't know why that's I need to figure it out. Because for me, because I also have the, that is weird. Okay. I turned the gain up on my mic. So my mic is already at like, so here's me getting really close to my mic. My mic is already at like 75% like max gain. I have no idea. It's also probably because I start to mumble the more concentrated I get when storyboarding. And then my face starts to lean away from the mic. That might be part of it, but I don't know why, like, it's so quiet. I'll try and fix that for next time. Alternatively, there might be an issue with OBS where it cuts off. I have a setting so it cuts off the sound of my computer fan. And so what it might be doing is it might be cutting out the beginning and the end of every word that I say, which then makes my words quieter. So that might be a me issue. I might have to figure that out. But thank you for bringing that up, person in the comments section. Yeah, because I can't tell. Oh, you had to add 40 decibels to yours? Jeez Louise. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. But yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Yeah, because sometimes when I'm like editing the videos, my mic is quiet, but then other times when I'm editing and I haven't adjusted my mic, it isn't quiet. So like it sounds normal. I don't have to turn my volume up very loud. So I don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm gonna summarize the scene and then I gotta go. I got work in just a few minutes. Okay, so what was the prompt? Yeah, okay, so what was the prompt? The prompt for today was just section 9.3, which was head to head, just when two characters' heads are touching or nearly touching. So yeah. So we have this shot in space where it's like this ancient destroyed spaceship. You know, maybe it's been floating here for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And you have these two kid characters that are talking something about the spaceship, and it's like, oh yeah, it's cool. It's like, this has been sitting around here for like hundreds of years. And he's like, whoa, what's that? It's like, oh, that's an engine. She's like, no, I know that's an engine. What's that thing? It's like, oh, that thing? It's like, I have no idea. It's like, And basically these two characters are talking about different things, and she's having an existential crisis because she thinks the spaceship of their colony might blow up just like this one. And he's giving her this complicated explanation that some kid who's only like 5 years older than him told him about why that's not an issue. She's like, wow, really? Wow, that really makes me feel better. And she's like, wait a minute. Wouldn't that just cause that issue, which would make things even worse? It's like, hey, explain this to me. Or something like that. And he realizes that he can't answer it. He's like, well, I think it's just gonna be all right. He's like, oh, hey, wait, what's that thing? And jumps away. She's like, wait a minute, you didn't even answer my question. Hey, get back here. And like, that's it. Oh, thank you. All right, so yeah, here's the sequence. Again, this one's a little tricky because I didn't know what the specific dialogue was, because I'm just making it up as I go along. But yeah, doing this in zero gravity I think helped. It helps better explain why they're head to head and why they can look at something, and there's a lot of ways this shot/scene could be done in zero gravity. But either way, that's it. Okay, cool. But yeah, thanks again for mentioning the mic issue. I'll try and figure it out. Because yeah, that's weird. Like, yeah, I have the gain up pretty high on the mic, so maybe I just need to change it in OBS Studios instead of changing it on the mic itself. Oh, thank you. Well, I gotta go. Thank you all for everyone who dropped by. Have a great rest of your day, and see you. Bye.